Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna set a 15-minute timer for this one. And click record. Alright, testing. So this is Shift 30 for 30, a journal. And I don't have a plan for this exactly. The idea to do it only occurred to me within the last hour or so. But someone asked me earlier this month, when I first went public with the idea for Shift 30 for 30, someone asked me, will I be sharing the felt shifts that I'm doing throughout the month? And it's a great question. But it's not an easy answer. I've been at odds with various people about being vulnerable online. More and more, I feel personally that I don't want to be. I don't really want to be vulnerable in public online. And I know there are a lot of people who do want to be and who value that. And I think I can understand that, because there have been times when that has been a huge priority for me and a huge desire, is I just want it to be real. That's why my Twitter account exists, really. I started it so that I could be more real in a lot of ways than I felt that I could be in my other account. And that has proven to work. I have been able to be more real. I've been able to be more honest with what I think and how I feel than I would have been comfortable doing if my name and face were attached to the account. But the odd thing about that is that it's all happening behind a mask, I guess, a mask. It's all happening anonymously, right? Just because I've been able to be more real and just because I've been able to be more vulnerable doesn't mean that I feel less vulnerable. In many ways, I feel more vulnerable. You know, if someone were to decide or accidentally dox me, then all of the stuff that I've shared about myself, all of the emotional things that I've shared about myself, and all the thoughts that I've shared within the privacy of an anonymous account will then be open to the public, attached to my name. And that's a very scary prospect, you know? Just because I've expressed them doesn't mean that it's not terrifying to imagine having them attached to me. It's like, yeah, you're hearing my voice, you're hearing my thoughts, you're hearing my feelings, but I have the safety of being, for the most part, unidentified. So it's a weird thing. Having an anonymous account, using an anonymous account, has allowed me to be more vulnerable in many ways that I'm actually comfortable being. So the question is like, why do I do that? Why do any of us do that? Why do any of us have anonymous accounts and spill our guts anonymously and not just have regular accounts? I mean, it's obviously going to be different for everybody. But for me, a big issue, if you will, a big problem, a big theme for me is containment and the ability to contain my thoughts and feelings. Not suppress them, not stifle them, but just contain them. And in many ways, the existence of my anonymous account is a product of my inability to contain a lot of my thoughts and feelings. I've had to find a way to vent them and express them because I couldn't just sit with them. I couldn't hold on to them privately, process them privately. So I had to kind of vomit them to the public, in a way, right? I had to wear my heart on my sleeve. But wearing your heart on your sleeve is dangerous. There's a reason why your heart is inside of your rib cage and not on your sleeve, because that would be a death trap, a death sentence. You don't want your heart to be that exposed, because you can be very, very hurt. But the anonymous account has, in a way, allowed me to wear my heart on my sleeve. And so there is a fear there all the time of, what if I get identified? What if somebody who doesn't like me or whatever, what if somebody says who I am? And then my heart is out there and it could be very easily crushed. So containment is, for me, about learning to sit with my thoughts and my feelings and process them myself, and not use a Twitter account and all of you to sort of offload my stresses, which is what I've done. And I think many of us do that. You know, not all of us use Twitter, or I mean, everyone who's ever going to listen to this probably uses Twitter, but, you know, the vast majority of people don't use Twitter. They use other people, they use their friends, they use their family, they use strangers. And it's kind of like asking somebody to be your therapist without their consent. You can't carry your own burdens, or I can't. I don't want to put this on other people so much. This is about me. I can't carry my own burdens. I can't hold the stress that I feel, or whatever it is that I'm feeling. I can't carry it. And so I have to offload it onto other people. And when those other people haven't agreed to take on that burden, or don't even realize that they're being handed that burden, that's unfair to them. And it does have an impact on them, whether they realize it or not. That's why I don't follow anybody on Twitter. Because that's how it was beginning to feel when I was following, 1,000+ people. It's like I could just scroll for hours and there would always be more tweets. And many of those tweets were what I just described. People like me were venting their emotions into the social media void. Because I don't know, if they're like me, because they don't feel heard anywhere else. Because they themselves can't contain and process their own feelings. So I would be scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, taking on the burden of all these different people most of whom I don't know. And I didn't want that anymore. It was intense. I'm a sensitive guy. Even when I tried to really not pay attention to what I was seeing, it's still, I have to make a choice to sort of not take it in. And it's a lot easier to not have to make that choice. It's a lot easier to just create a boundary and say, you know what? I'm not going to expose myself to all of that. I still care about people, and I still have people who I want to know what's going on with them. I want to know what they think. And I will go and visit them. I will go and knock on their door, metaphorically, and check out their profile and see what they've been talking about. But I don't need to just drink from the fire hose of everybody's emotional intensity. And so, going back to what I began with, I don't really want to be more vulnerable online or more vulnerable in public, because I don't think it's actually that good of a thing. It's good to become more vulnerable. It's good to become less boxed in by your own walls. Yeah, I do believe in that. But there are different extremes. I've been at both extremes. I've been at the extreme where I shared nothing. I held everything in, and I suppressed a lot of it. And that sucked. And so after many, many years, I burst. I couldn't handle that anymore. I hated it. It was miserable. So I went to the opposite extreme, where I didn't want to hold anything in, and I just wanted to vomit everything out. I wanted to share everything. I wanted to say everything. So I had no boundaries. That too is extreme. That too can become its own trap, its own painful situation. So Yeah, that's a big thing for me nowadays, is containment. And with Shift 30 for 30, going back to the question that I was asked, like, am I going to share my shifts? Again, I don't know. Maybe sometimes I will. It really depends. I don't yet know what I'm going to be exploring over the course of July. Some things might be more uh, mundane. They might be less charged. And maybe those things I will feel comfortable sharing. And I know that it can be good to share it. You know, I'm not saying that things should never be shared. There's a lot of power in sharing and being open. And I know a lot of you know that and are experiencing that. Like those of you currently in the art of accomplishment know that very well. Wow, Otter's really not transcribing this well. So yeah, it's really going to be day by day. And I'm not going to make a commitment to be vulnerable, and I'm not going to say one way or the other. I'm going to take it day by day. And that's what I encourage everyone else to do. If something is raw, if something feels very vulnerable, be careful with that. Because if you put it out in the open, you're exposing yourself. And if we're going to talk in terms of internal family systems, which I think can be very, very helpful, what happens when you put an exile on display, even just inside of yourself? When you shine the light on an exile, that's scary. There's a lot of pain there. Managers will do everything they can to keep that from happening. And if it does happen, firefighters swoop in, right? That's when you get drinking, overeating, drugs, all this sorts, whatever it is for you. Firefighters swoop in to take you away from the pain of having your exiles exposed. So I really want to emphasize that going into Shift 30 for 30 is like, that's going to be happening. If we're going to be mucking around in our internal worlds, our exiles are going to get exposed. So be very cautious, be very gentle with yourself. And if you need privacy, take it.